There's an old saying that the eyes are the window to the soul, and when a woman craves you but disguises it, her eyes become the one part of her that struggles to lie. While her words may be measured and her body language carefully curated, her gaze often speaks before she even realizes it. You see, the eyes operate on a different level of consciousness. They are emotional messengers, quietly delivering truths that the mouth may never have the courage to say. A woman who secretly craves you is often caught between the tension of emotional exposure and self-protection. She may avoid prolonged eye contact not because she's disinterested, but because the intensity of what she feels makes it hard to hold your gaze without revealing too much. Other times, she might look at you longer than she intends to, in moments when she feels safe or lost in thought. And those looks are often rich in emotion, curiosity, admiration, vulnerability, before she quickly looks away, afraid she's given too much. Psychologically, this is tied to what we call nonverbal leakage. When someone experiences an emotion that they're trying to suppress, that energy doesn't simply disappear. It escapes in small, unconscious ways. The eyes, unfiltered by social scripts, become a primary channel for that escape. So while she's saying one thing with her words, keeping the conversation light, acting indifferent, her eyes are operating on a completely different frequency, silently expressing interest, longing, or even sadness when you're not paying attention. It's also important to understand the role of vulnerability in this dynamic. Eye contact is one of the most intimate non-sexual exchanges between two people. It requires presence, it requires honesty, and for someone who's trying to hide what she feels, sustained eye contact can feel like too much of a reveal. So she might look down, glance sideways, or pretend to be distracted. All methods of emotional self-preservation. But here's where discernment is crucial. You must learn to feel the intent behind the glance. Does she look at you when you're not looking, but quickly turn away when your eyes meet? That's not indifference. That's fear colliding with desire. Does her gaze linger just a second too long when you're talking? That's an unspoken connection trying to surface. These are the micro moments that matter. Not the loud signals, but the quiet slips where her true feelings momentarily come to light. And yet, most people miss them. We're conditioned to listen to words, not study expressions. We're taught to wait for declarations instead of noticing gestures. But when it comes to hidden craving, the eyes will always lead the way, if you're present enough to see it. So pay close attention. Her silence may be deliberate, her posture composed, but her eyes, they'll reveal everything she's afraid to say. Because when a woman truly craves you, the truth almost always escapes through the gaze, even when the rest of her is pretending not to feel a thing. There's a shift in the air when you walk into a room, a subtle change in tone, in posture, in presence. If a woman secretly craves you but is working hard to disguise it, that shift becomes a silent confession. Her emotional energy responds to you in ways she doesn't fully control. You may notice she becomes more alert, a bit more careful with her words, or suddenly more animated, almost as if she's trying to fill a silence that only she can hear. That's not coincidence. That's chemistry cloaked in restraint. You see, emotional energy is never neutral. When someone means something to us, whether we admit it or not, they affect the way we show up. A woman who secretly desires you will feel that emotional pull every time you're around. But because she's hiding it, she tries to regulate her behavior. It's a defense mechanism, sometimes by acting in overly formal, fear of being obvious, withdrawing fear slightly, of vulnerability, and other times fear by being rejected for something she hasn't even voiced aloud. These are self-imposed emotional boundaries. Instead of leaning into the connection, she's creating a buffer between what she feels guarded and what she thinks she should project. She overcompensates by being overly accommodating, trying to manage the emotional environment so that you don't suspect a thing. What's fascinating about this behavior is that it's deeply psychological. The human nervous system is constantly scanning for emotional safety. When you're around and she craves you, that safety feels both alluring. You'll notice it in the tiniest ways. All it takes is your presence to activate a subtle when she addresses you, a push-pull between wanting to be near you, her laugh fearing comes more easily, or not at all, depending on how tightly she's holding back. That's why she can be one way with everyone else in the room. These aren't signs of disinterest. It's not performance, it's involuntary. Indicators that her emotional state becomes heightened something inside her she's not ready to name. While words can be polished and body language can be rehearsed, emotional shifts are visceral. You can feel when someone is emotionally activated around you, even if they never say a word. So don't dismiss those changes. Don't ignore the subtle discomfort or the sudden enthusiasm. They are messages wrapped in silence. Because when a woman secretly craves you, her energy will speak long before her lips ever do. And if you're wise enough to notice, you'll realize what she hides in behavior, she reveals in presence. There's something quietly powerful about curiosity, especially when it's controlled, subtle, and intentional. When a woman secretly craves you but will never admit it, one of the most telling signs is the way she seeks to know you without ever asking directly. She may never flood your phone with questions or openly fish for details, but her interest flows in quieter, more calculated ways. You'll notice she remembers the little things, your favorite song, the story you once told in passing, or that specific way you take your coffee. And while that might seem casual, even coincidental, it's not. This kind of curiosity isn't random, it's emotionally driven. Psychologically speaking, we only retain details about the people who hold space in our minds. When a woman secretly desires you, her emotional investment in you makes even the smallest fragments of information feel important, because you matter to her internal world. But she's not just curious, she's cautious. So rather than asking direct questions that might expose her interest, she absorbs from the sidelines. She listens more than she speaks. She watches more than she acts. She learns about you through observation and indirect conversation, often through mutual friends or social media. It's an information gathering strategy rooted in emotional safety. She wants to feel close, to understand who you are and what you value, but she can't afford the vulnerability of making it obvious. So instead, she engages in what I call silent closeness, a kind of emotional proximity that doesn't require direct contact. Now here's where it gets even more nuanced. She may ask others about you, not out of gossip, but to build a fuller image of who you are. And she stores these fragments like puzzle pieces, trying to make sense of the emotional connection she feels but won't admit. It's her way of managing longing without stepping outside the boundaries of pride, fear, or uncertainty. There's a kind of philosophical depth to this behavior as well. When someone becomes the object of our inner desire, we're drawn to understand them. We seek meaning in their words, look for patterns in their habits, and read significance into their presence. It's a psychological expression of yearning, disguised as curiosity. Not every question is spoken aloud, but every answer still matters. So if you've noticed her remembering details you didn't expect, responding to things you never directly told her, or bringing up topics you only mentioned once, that's not coincidence. That's care in disguise. It's proof that you live in her thoughts, even if she's never said so out loud. Because here's the truth. When a woman secretly craves you, her silence isn't empty. It's full of attention. And in a world where everyone is so quick to speak, those who observe deeply are often the ones who feel most intensely. So don't underestimate the quiet ones. Her silence might just be the loudest form of interest you'll ever receive. One of the most paradoxical signs that a woman craves you in silence is her emotional inconsistency. At first glance, it may seem like she's sending mixed signals, warm one moment, distant the next. But if you look deeper, you'll see that inconsistency is not confusion. It's protection. It's the emotional dance of someone fighting against what she feels because admitting it might cost her more than she's ready to pay. This pattern is deeply rooted in the psychology of inner conflict. She feels something strong, undeniable even, but she's not ready or perhaps not willing to let that feeling come to the surface. So what happens? Her emotions leak out in waves. One day she might be deeply engaging, responsive, and even subtly flirtatious. The next she pulls away, becomes cold, or avoids you entirely, and you're left wondering what changed. But the truth is, nothing changed, except her level of control over her own vulnerability. Think about it. When we want something deeply but aren't sure we're allowed to want it, we go into a cycle of approach and retreat. This is what psychologists call ambivalent attachment or emotional push-pull. It's the inner battle between desire and self-preservation. So she might smile a little too brightly when she sees you. This behavior is not about indecision. She might comment on your stories, then go radio silent. She may act losing emotional control, only to react strongly when she sees you give attention to someone else. Truly seen, there's no taking it back. So she tries to regulate her presence, she tries to control how much of herself she offers you at any given time. But in that inconsistency, she reveals exactly what she's trying to hide. So if you're experiencing inconsistency from her, the more she cares, to label it as the more unstable her behavior may seem. See it for what it is, because the emotional battle between the desire to be close and the need to stay guarded. Because when a woman craves you but disguises it, her behavior won't always make sense on the surface. But if you learn to listen between the lines, if you pay attention to the rhythm of her presence, another subtle, you'll realize that the inconsistency that a woman secretly isn't confusion, but will never openly admit it, is her visible discomfort or shift in energy when you engage with other women. And in that space between what she shows and what she hides, it's often quiet. Her true desire quietly waits to be understood, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. But if you pay close attention, the tension is there, a flicker in her expression, a sudden change in body language, a withdrawal from the conversation, or even a sharp dismissive comment that seems out of place. This isn't jealousy in its raw, overt form. It's restrained. Because remember, she's not supposed to care, at least not openly. She's not your girlfriend. She hasn't declared any romantic interest, so she has no right, in her mind, to show possessiveness. But emotionally, she's already invested, and any perceived threat to that silent attachment triggers a reaction. This reaction is rooted in something deeper, the psychology of emotional territory. When we desire someone, even without acting on that desire, we begin to feel a subconscious sense of emotional ownership. It's not logical, but it's human. And it's this unspoken claim that makes her hyper-aware of any woman you give attention to. Not because she wants to control you, but because she's already emotionally connected, whether she admits it or not. You'll notice that sometimes she becomes colder when another woman enters the space. Sometimes she suddenly acts disinterested in you, not because her feelings changed, but because she's trying to distance herself from the sting of comparison. It's a defense mechanism. If she pretends she doesn't care, maybe she won't have to feel the weight of what she's not saying. And ironically, this discomfort can even show up as indifference. She might act completely unaffected, even supportive, saying things like she's cute or you two look good together. But watch her eyes, listen to her tone. True detachment is calm, but forced detachment, that carries tension. It's the kind of effort we make when our pride is fighting our vulnerability. Now, philosophically, this speaks to the very human fear of being replaced, especially by someone who had the courage to do what she couldn't: speak, act, reach out. And in those moments, what she's really confronting isn't the other woman, it's her own silence. So if you ever notice a sudden emotional shift when another woman is around, don't take it at face value. Look beyond the surface. Her discomfort isn't just about competition, it's about containment. It's about holding in a desire that's been burning quietly for too long. Because when a woman craves you in silence, the greatest threat isn't losing you to someone else. It's realizing she may never have taken the chance to be seen at all. And that's the real tragedy. Not missed opportunities, but silent ones. One of the most overlooked yet powerful signs that a woman secretly craves you is the way she remembers the small details. And I'm not talking about obvious facts, your birthday, where you work, or your favorite color if it's been casually mentioned. I'm talking about the subtle, almost forgettable things. That one offhand comment you made about your childhood, the way you like your coffee, or a specific moment you mentioned in passing from weeks ago. She stores them like puzzle pieces, each one adding to the quiet picture she's forming of you in her mind. You see, attention is the currency of desire. We don't focus deeply on what doesn't matter to us. And when a woman is emotionally invested, even in secret, her brain tunes itself to your frequency. She starts to notice what others don't. She recalls the tone you used when you spoke about something painful. She picks up on when your energy feels slightly off. She notices when you're not yourself, even if you haven't said a word. This isn't just emotional sensitivity. It's psychological tracking. It's her way of staying connected to you without ever having to say it out loud, because to her, this silent understanding builds intimacy. It's a bridge that keeps her close while maintaining the illusion of distance. And here's where it gets deeper. Often this quiet observation comes with a silent, caretaking instinct. She'll find subtle ways to support you without being obvious. She might send you a link to something she thought you might like, but somehow it speaks to a challenge you're facing. She may offer encouragement at just the right moment, or give you space when she senses you need it. These aren't coincidences. They're signals, quiet acts of emotional presence, invisible threads of attention that tie her to you even while she pretends to be neutral. Philosophically, this points to a profound truth about human connection. We are most vulnerable not in what we declare, but in what we consistently show without needing recognition. When a woman craves you but won't admit it, her love becomes a language of detail, and she hopes, perhaps quietly, that you'll speak that language too, that you'll notice her noticing. But here's the challenge. If you're not tuned in, it's easy to miss. And once those silent offerings are dismissed or overlooked long enough, she may retreat for good. Because just as silence can speak, it can also protect. When unacknowledged, her quiet craving turns into quiet resignation. So if you ever feel like someone knows you better than you expected, like she sees you without asking much in return, pause. Look deeper. Because in her quiet memory of your world, she may be showing you just how deeply you matter to hers. And that's the essence of unspoken desire. Not loud declarations, but a consistent, quiet presence. One that says, I see you, even when I can't say it.